Canelo, to me, the face of boxing, back in action against John Ryder. I think it's in Mexico, and I've got the lines here for you. I thought it might be 10,000-1, but it's Canelo. We got Canelo minus 2,000, John Ryder plus 665 from the guys at MyBookie. Check them out at mybookie.ag. Use the promo code ATLAS. Teddy, what are we looking for out of Canelo, and is there anything John Ryder can do to win this fight?
Well, John Ryder, 34 years old, 32-5. He's been knocked out one time and stopped one time. His best name on his record is he beat an old Danny Jacobs, split decision. So at least that helps Ryder in his mind that he belongs here at this level. And that's very important. He's got experience, and that's very important. He lost to Callum Smith, lost to Rocky Fielding in a split decision. He lost to Jack Arnfield, and he was stopped by Nick Blackwell. And he lost to Billy Joe Saunders. So he lost to 4 guys that Canelo beat. But here's the key, Ken. I think Canelo's getting old. I think he's sliding. He didn't look good against a very old Triple G. Did not look good for me. I'm not the pom-pom guy. You know what I mean? I'm going to tell you the way it is, like Howard Cosell. Telling you the way it is. You're not getting this pom-pom stuff over here. Obviously, people know that by now. Canelo is not the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. He's not even in the top 10. And again, calm down. I have great admiration and respect for the history of that country with their fighters. The great warriors and fighters that have come from that country. And that's why I say he's not in the top 10, because I have great respect for the tradition of boxing in Mexico. Great respect. Where I'm not going to let somebody be placed in there that don't belong in there. But more importantly now, more relative right now, is that he's sliding a little bit. I think he's getting old. He turned pro when he was 15 or 16, right? He's got over 60 fights now, Canelo. And, he's only 32. You'd think that he'd be 82 as long as he's been around, right? I mean, because he turned pro, 15 or 16 in Mexico. So he's been around an awful long time, but I just see a little sliding. And now I don't know that it's enough for John Ryder to have a chance, but I'll tell you one thing about John Ryder. He's a southpaw. Maybe that gives him a little something, that he is a southpaw. And he's only an inch taller than Canelo, so he's a stocky, physical guy. He likes to be aggressive, but he's not really reckless. He comes in slow, takes his time, tries to be methodical, moves his head, but he's not fast. He don't have quick hands. He don't have quick feet. He is predictable. He is a bit one-dimensional. And with the edge of the southpaw that could give him a little help, being that he's a southpaw, but where it falls a little short is that he's a squared-up southpaw. He's not a cutie. He's not a southpaw that behaves like a southpaw, that can give you the kind of problems that lefties can give you. He's right there in front of you, where it almost don't matter that he's a southpaw because, he's coming at you in the way that you can expect, right in front of you, where there's something to find. You don't have to go look for him. So, but he's a game guy. He's a guy that is... He's at probably the best place he's been in his career, as far as mentally, confidence. He's a guy that will give his all. He's a guy who's hungry, all of those things. But he's also just what the doctor ordered for Canelo to get better, coming off that bad performance against Triple G where he hasn't really been, and the loss to Bivol, where he wants to kind of get back up in people's minds as Canelo, that people thought. Not that that was perception of him was accurate, but it was the perception. He's the best. A lot of people had him the number one pound for pound guy and in boxing. And he wants to get back to that status or close to that status. This would be probably one of the guys to do it with, unless Canelo has gotten old. Then it changes everything. But Canelo, if he's not significantly diminished, as I'm starting to see some sliding, then he should look good against Felder. For the reason Ryder, for the reason I just said. Ryder's going to come at him. He's not fast. He's predictable. He's right in front of him. I think Canelo can use his jab to control him. I think he could go to the body. I think he could do some counter punching. He might even be able to use the uppercut, which is a really good punch for Canelo. He didn't really use it in his last couple fights, but it's a fight where it's a punch where if a guy's in front of him where he can find the guy, it's a very productive punch for him. I think he could do all those things with Ryder, theoretically, if, as I said, Canelo, hasn't regressed anymore from what I thought I saw was a regression in his last fight with Triple G.
Before we talk about anything else, Teddy, the over-under on the Canelo Ryder fight, 8.5 rounds, even money, minus 117 either way. Over-under 8.5 rounds. What do you think?
I'm going over. I'm going to say that he could get him out of there. He could get Ryder out of there. And I said Ryder's made to order, potentially made to order, what the doctor ordered to make Canelo feel better if Canelo hasn't stepped back. I think he stepped back a little bit. And I think Ryder has enough experience, enough grit to at least go some rounds with him. I don't think he can win the fight. And I'm not saying that he'll get through the whole night without being stopped. But he has been stopped already once in his career. That could easily become 2. But I'm going to say that it would go over. In the last fight that Canelo had against Triple G, for me, he looked slow. He often threw just single shots. He did not follow up on any opportunities. He was always satisfied to just barely do enough to have an edge. And he did not move his hands nearly enough throughout the night. But as I said before, if he has anything left, Ryder should be what the doctor ordered.
How much of that Canelo performance do you put on maybe every time he was moving his hands more or trying to be more aggressive, Triple G was countering him and he was in there with someone who arguably beat him twice already. Maybe he was tentative, coming off of
good question.
The last 2 outings. It's like sometimes you hear that trainer telling, throw the jab. Every time I throw a jab, he hits me right over the top.
Well,
give me some different advice. So I'm just wondering, and if Canelo doesn't say, I got to come out and look good against Ryder because everyone's saying exactly what you're saying, he should get him. He should beat him.
I think part of it, to your question, good question. Part of it is, first of all, Triple G made some adjustments. He did a good job of stepping out of range to make Canelo miss. Pretty good job of stepping out of range. That's the problem. Canelo didn't follow up. That was missing, and I noticed that was missing. Also, Triple G, like he did in his second fight with him, which he got robbed, I thought, he did a good job using his jab, even at 42 years of age. I think he was 42. Having said all of that, there's always intangibles. There's always X factors. And I think the X factor, I'm making no excuses, obviously, for Canelo. It's your responsibility to get in there and be ready, mentally, physically, emotionally, every way. I think he might have overlooked Triple G a little bit. I think that, he knew what everyone else was talking about, that the fight was 5 years too late, that Triple G or whatever, that Triple G was older, that Triple G was getting hit a lot in his fight before that with the Murata, the Japanese fighter, who he overcame it, but he was getting hit a lot. And and I think he was probably expecting an easier fight, which you should never expect. In any profession. Your profession is to be ready, whatever your profession is, whatever that vocation is, that you should never expect it to be an easy day. You should always expect whatever it is you do for a living to be ready for the utmost, to be ready for the hardest day you ever had, to be ready for that. So I think that was part of it. Will he look brilliantly better? I don't know. I think that's the only reason you're going to watch this fight if you're a Canelo fan and you want to see, will he look better than he did, or is this downward trend? Lost to Bevo, didn't look good against Triple G. Is this downward trend real? Is it real? Does it continue? I think that's why you look to watch this fight.